Let me tell you something real, something we don't talk about enough. Not everyone who claps for you is cheering for you. Some people are only around because of what they think they can get from you. They're not connected to your purpose. They're connected to your position. And the moment that position shifts, the moment life humbles you a little bit, they vanish like they were never there. I call them opportunists. These are the folks that love you when the spotlight's on you, when the checks are clearing, when the cameras are rolling and the applause is loud. Oh, they're there with you in the green room, in the front row, deeming you, proud of you, bro, like they were with you in the trenches. But where were they when you were building? Where were they when you were bleeding privately and smiling publicly? You've got to recognize this kind of energy early, because if you let the wrong people into your circle, they'll start feeding off your fire. And before you know it, you're cold and empty while they're warmed up, energized, and on to the next. Opportunists know how to talk the talk. They know the language of loyalty. They'll say things like, "We're in this together. I got your back," or family. But when the season changes, they ghost you. They switch teams. They stop answering the phone. Not because they never had time for you, but because you're no longer useful to them. I need you to get this: someone being present does not mean someone is committed. Don't confuse proximity with loyalty. Judas was close too. Just because they're around doesn't mean they're for you. And see, that's what makes it dangerous. The betrayal doesn't come from strangers. It never does. It's always someone you let close enough to hurt you. When you're on the rise, it's easy to attract people. But don't get gassed. Most of them don't love you. They love the access. They love the lifestyle, the connections, the exposure. They love being associated with you. But if you lost everything tomorrow, if the title was stripped, if the status disappeared, who's really still there? Who's picking up your call when there's no headline attached to your name? Let me tell you, some of the realest people I've met in my life didn't have anything to offer me on paper. But they had integrity, they had presence, and they had consistency. That's what matters. That's who you build with. That's who you trust. Not the ones who show up only when it's convenient, only when they can profit, only when there's something in it for them. See, opportunists are actors. They're playing a role. And if you're not careful, they'll manipulate your kindness. They'll wear the mask of friendship. And before you know it, you've handed over your vision, your dreams, your secrets to someone who never intended to carry them with care. And I know what you're thinking, but they said they loved me. They said they believed in me. Listen to me. Actions don't lie. Patterns don't lie. When people show you who they are, stop repainting them with who you wish they were. If they only call when they need something, that's not friendship. That's convenience. If they celebrate you publicly but tear you down privately, that's not loyalty. That's manipulation. If they disappear in the valley and only reappear at the mountaintop, that's not family. That's exploitation. You've got to check the fruit, not the words, not the vibes. The fruit. Are they consistent? Are they praying with you and for you? Do they show up when the cameras are off? That's the test. Let me make it practical. Go back and look at the people who were in your life during your darkest season, who didn't need you to perform, to produce, to impress, who didn't require a platform or perks to stay close. That's your circle. That's your tribe. That's the soil you grow in. You don't need a crowd. You need clarity. Clarity on who's who. Clarity on who's real. Because the wrong people can delay your purpose. They can break your spirit. They can poison your dream with doubt. All because you mistook association for alignment. You don't need everyone. You just need the right ones. And let me be real. Sometimes that means walking alone for a season. Sometimes it means saying no to the people who once had access. Sometimes it means cleaning house emotionally, spiritually, relationally. Because you can't build something meaningful with people who are only around when it's easy. Stop watering dead plants. Stop feeding people who only eat but never pour. Stop explaining your worth to those who keep overlooking your value. It's not pride, it's protection. It's wisdom, it's growth. And when you start moving like that, when you start guarding your peace and your purpose, watch how the fakes fall off. Watch how the opportunists move on to their next target. And let them. Because where you're going, not everyone can come, and they're not supposed to. Trust should never be automatic. It's not a gift you give. It's a prize people earn over time, through storms, through silence, through seasons. So be kind, be humble, be open, but don't be blind. Watch for the ones who love your light, but never stayed with you in the dark. Because at the end of the day, it's not about how many people surround you. It's about who's truly standing with you when the applause stops. That's who deserves your trust. Some of y'all are trying to run with weights tied around your ankles, and you don't even realize it. You're pushing, you're grinding, you're dreaming, and yet something's always pulling you back. Every time you start to get momentum, here comes somebody dumping negativity on your vision. And let me be real with you. It's not always your circumstances. Sometimes it's the people you've allowed into your space. People who don't build. People who don't dream. People who always have a problem, but never a solution. You know the type I'm talking about. The chronic complainers. The ones who walk into every room with a cloud over their head and try to cover your light with it. They're never responsible. Nothing is ever their fault. Life is always unfair. They've got 10 reasons why it won't work, but never one plan to make it work. They talk more about obstacles than opportunities. They criticize every move you make, but you never see them take one of their own. And if you're not careful, you'll start thinking like them, because complaining is contagious. Just like faith builds faith, doubt builds doubt. Energy transfers. If you keep listening to people who constantly speak from a place of defeat, don't be surprised when you start doubting your own power. Let me break it down for you. Chronic complainers are dream killers. Not because they're evil, but because they're empty. They can't see possibility because they've trained themselves to expect disappointment. They've rehearsed pain so long that anything that looks like hope makes them uncomfortable. And when you start moving with purpose, when you start speaking life, when you start stepping into your calling, they'll try to pull you back down. Not because they hate you, but because you remind them of what they gave up on. You've got to protect your environment, because your environment shapes your expectations, and expectations shape outcomes. If you hang around people who normalize blame, you'll stop taking ownership. If you hang around people who always point fingers, you'll forget the power in your own hands. You can't grow in toxic soil. You can't dream in a room full of doubt. And let me tell you something real. Complainers don't want solutions. They want want sympathy. They don't want change. They want company. You ever try giving a chronic complainer a practical step to solve their issue? They'll shoot it down before you even finish your sentence. Now that won't work. Yeah, but you don't understand. That's easy for you to say. They're not looking for answers. They're looking for attention. And if you're not mindful, you'll start shrinking yourself just to keep the peace. You'll stop talking about your goals because you don't want to seem too ambitious. You'll play small to make them comfortable. But hear me, you weren't built to fit their version of reality. You were born to rise above it. And it's not about thinking you're better than anyone. It's about knowing you were created for more. You can't afford to let someone else's fear rewrite your future. You can't let their complaining become your soundtrack. Every time they say, you can't, here, I couldn't. Every time they say, be realistic, here, I settled. That's not your voice. That's not your truth. That's their wound talking, not your destiny. Now I know what some of y'all are thinking, but that's my friend. That's my cousin. That's my day one. I get it. But I need you to hear me on this. Loyalty doesn't mean self-sabotage. You don't have to cut them off to outgrow them, but you do need to create distance between their doubts and your dreams. You need space to think, to breathe, to believe. Because if you don't, you'll wake up one day and realize you've spent years arguing with people who've never built anything, trying to prove yourself to people who never believed in themselves. You've got to elevate your circle. Get around some builders, some fighters. People who don't just talk about change, but become the change. People who say, you know what, it's hard, but let's figure it out. That's who you trust. That's who you align with. Not the ones who tear everything down with their mouth and build nothing with their hands. I remember being around folks who always had something negative to say. Every time I'd talk about a dream, they'd come with, but what if it fails? Or people don't really make it in that space. And for a minute, I started to question myself. I started shrinking my own goals just to fit into their small thinking. But then I realized they're not qualified to speak over my purpose. Just because they quit on themselves doesn't mean I'm quitting on me. Just because they stop reaching doesn't mean I will. You've got to make a decision. Are you going to walk with the talkers or run with the doers? Because the people you surround yourself with will either stretch you or suffocate you. They'll either push you toward your greatness or pull you back into comfort. And let me be clear, comfort kills dreams. Every single time. There's no growth without discomfort. And sometimes the most uncomfortable thing you can do is let go of people who've been in your life for years. But let me ask you something. Are they helping you grow, or are they holding you back? Are they pushing you forward or pulling you into their complaints? You deserve to be around people who remind you of what's possible, who challenge your excuses, who say, yeah, it's tough, but you were built for this. That kind of energy will change your life, because momentum is spiritual. It's emotional, and you can't afford to carry people who refuse to move. So I'm telling you today, if you want to go to the next level, you've got to release the voices that keep you in survival mode. You've got to rise above the noise of negativity. Let people stay where they are if they want to, but you've got things to build, lives to impact, purpose to fulfill. Don't let chronic complainers become the architects of your mindset. Let me tell you what's dangerous. Not the person who tells you they don't like you. That's easy. You can see it coming. You can feel it in your gut. What's dangerous is the one who smiles in your face and talks behind your back. What's dangerous is the one who says, I got you. But the moment you turn around, they're telling your story to people who were never meant to hear it. I'm talking about the shapeshifters, the double-faced, the ones who change depending on the crowd they're in. And if you've got people like that in your circle, let me tell you, you're not walking with soldiers. You're walking with shadows. These people don't have identity. They have strategy. They blend in. They become whatever the environment demands. One day they sound like you, move like you, act like they're down for you. And the next day, they're echoing the language of your doubters. One moment they're all in, the next they're ghost. You think they're loyal, but they're loyal to comfort, not to you. They don't love you. They love access. They love being connected to your light as long as it doesn't reveal their darkness. You've got to pay attention. Listen, snakes don't hiss anymore. They call you bro. They call you sis. They know how to wear the uniform of support. They say all the right things, but their actions don't line up. You see them repost your win, but never show up for the work. You hear them speak well of you in public, but their energy shifts when you leave the room. And here's the part that cuts deep. They were close. You trusted them. You let them in. And now you're trying to figure out, how did I not see it coming? Let me help you. It's because they looked the part. Because shapeshifters are excellent performers. They know how to mirror your language, mimic your drive, reflect your ambition. But here's the key. They can't sustain it. Eventually, the mask gets heavy. The truth shows. Eventually, they get tired of pretending and the real them comes out. And by the time they flip on you, you're already wounded because you thought you were building with them. But they were never building. They were just borrowing your momentum until they found someone else to attach themselves to, not setbacks. And here's what I need you to understand. You don't need people in your life who need a script to stand beside you. You need people who are the same in the dark as they are in the light, who are the same when you're winning as when you're struggling, not setbacks, who don't just agree with you to stay close, but challenge you to stay sharp. That's real connection. That's what you trust. See, shapeshifters are insecure. They have no center, no conviction, no anchor. They're guided by whatever gives them the most benefit in the moment. They'll celebrate you if it benefits them. They'll support your vision if it keeps them relevant. But the moment you set a boundary, the moment you call out the inconsistency, the moment you stop being useful to their agenda, now all of a sudden, you're the problem. You're acting different. You're too serious. No. You're just no longer feeding their ego, and they can't handle that. Let me tell you what I had to learn the hard way. Just because someone starts with you doesn't mean they're meant to finish with you. Some people are seasonal. Some people are situational. And some people are straight up snakes in disguise. And if you keep trying to drag people into your next chapter who were only written in for the introduction, you're going to end up carrying dead weight that blocks your blessing. Don't ignore the red flags. Don't explain away the inconsistencies. Don't justify betrayal just because you have history. History is not enough. Loyalty is more than years. It's about who shows up when it's hard, who stays when it's quiet, who still believes when the hype is gone. Anybody can love you when you're winning, but who's there when it's dry? Who's praying for you in private? Who's defending you when you're not in the room? You've got to test people, not with drama, not with setups, but with time. Time exposes everything. Time reveals true intentions. A shapeshifter can only pretend for so long. The longer you walk with them, the more their cracks start to show. And when it happens, don't chase. Don't beg. Don't try to convince someone to be solid who's still choosing to be slippery. I'm telling you, your destiny is too important to keep entertaining people who are still trying to figure out who they are. You can't build legacy with someone who's still living a lie. You can't build a foundation with someone who changes form depending on pressure. Trust requires stability. It requires consistency. You can't trust someone who doesn't even trust themselves. Not setbacks. And I know this might hit hard because some of you have people in your life right now who you want to trust. You've shared your dreams with them. You've cried in front of them. You've opened your world to them. And deep down, you're starting to feel the shift, but you're afraid to call it out. Let me give you permission. It's okay to walk away from people who no longer align with your values. It's okay to love people from a distance. It's okay to protect your peace. That's not being fake. That's being faithful. Faithful to your growth. Faithful to your calling. Faithful to your future. You were never meant to carry imposters into your promised land. You were never meant to trust people who only show up when it benefits them. You've got to surround yourself with truth tellers, not shapeshifters, with builders, not pretenders, with warriors, not actors. Because at the end of the day, trust is not about charisma and setbacks. It's about character. It's not about appearance. It's about alignment. And if they keep shifting, keep flipping, keep morphing, let them go. Because you can't stand firm in your purpose while holding hands with someone who stands for nothing. Let's get straight to it. Never trust someone who refuses to take responsibility. I'm talking about the blame shifters, the excuse makers, the ones who point the finger at everybody else, but never once stop to check themselves. See, you can't build anything solid with a person who's always in victim mode. You can't grow with someone who sees correction as criticism and accountability as attack. Because here's the truth. If they can't own their mistakes, they'll never protect your progress. Every time something goes wrong, not setbacks, they've got a reason, right? It's the system, it's their childhood, it's the weather, it's the way you looked at them last week. It's always something external. They'll twist the facts, rewrite the story, and still walk away like they're the hero in it. And if you're not paying attention, they'll have you apologizing for things they did wrong. You'll be walking on eggshells while they break the whole house down and act like you're the problem. Listen, there's nothing wrong with being human. We all mess up. We all fall short. But the difference between a person of character and a person of convenience is this. One owns it and grows from it. The other hides from it and repeats it. And if someone can't look in the mirror and say, yeah, that one was on me, you better believe they won't have your back when it matters most. It starts small. They miss a deadline. Blame the team. They mess up a relationship. Blame their ex. They drop the ball. Blame the system. It's always deflect, deflect, deflect. And if you don't catch it, that mindset starts infecting the way you think. You start lowering your standards. You start absorbing their narrative. You start making excuses for why you're not where you need to be. Because now you've normalized avoiding responsibility. But hear me, you can't win if you don't own. You can't grow if you won't admit. You can't evolve if every lesson is lost in blame. Trust requires maturity. Trust requires someone who can say, that's on me, and then do something about it. Not just words, not just apologies. Action. You ever been around somebody who always says, I'm sorry, but never changes? Always sorry, but still doing the same thing that broke your trust the last time. At some point, you've got to recognize the pattern, because apologies without transformation are manipulation. You can't build anything lasting with someone who uses apologies like band-aids instead of blueprints. Setbacks. I'm sorry is not a strategy, it's a step. And the people you trust need to be the kind of people who take the next one. I'm not talking about being perfect. I'm talking about being honest, being accountable, being real. Can they call themselves out before you have to? Can they own their role in the fallout? Can they look you in the eye and say, I got it wrong? Not because you caught them, but because they care enough to take ownership. Let me tell you why this matters so much. Because if someone won't take responsibility for their own actions, they'll never take responsibility for your trust. They'll betray you and act like you're being dramatic. They'll make choices that put everything at risk and then say, it's not that deep. You need people who value the weight of trust, who understand that trust isn't built in comfort. It's built in conflict. It's built in the moments where they could hide, but they choose to stand up. They could lie, but they choose to be transparent. They could blame, but they choose to be better. And let's be real, some of you are exhausted right now, not because life is too hard, but because you're trying to people who refuse to carry their own load. You're cleaning up messes they keep making, not setbacks. You're sacrificing your peace to manage their chaos. You're doing all the emotional heavy lifting while they sit back and play the victim. That's not trust. That's imbalance. And imbalance will always lead to burnout. You've got to stop confusing potential with partnership, not setbacks. Just because someone could do better doesn't mean they will. Just because they say they want to grow doesn't mean they're committed to it. You need to trust people who are already practicing what they preach, who show up, not just when it's convenient, but when it's hard, who face their flaws and still choose to do the work. That's who you build with. Let me break it down for you like this. When someone can't take responsibility, they become a liability. You're always watching your back, not setbacks. You're always filtering your words. You're always wondering if they're going to drop the ball again. And if they do, guess what? They won't own it. They'll just find another person or problem to point to. That kind of energy will drain your drive. It'll cloud your focus. It'll slow you down, because now you're not just managing your purpose. You're managing their immaturity. You're walking through life with someone who refuses to grow, and you're calling it loyalty. But real loyalty doesn't look like carrying people who keep choosing to stay stuck. Real loyalty looks like truth. It looks like accountability. It looks like saying, I love you, but I can't trust you if you keep running from your reflection. And here's what you've got to remember. Your peace, your progress, your purpose are too valuable to hand over to someone who won't even own their own steps. You've got to make space in your life for people who build, not blame, who rise, not run, who stand up, not shrink back. Because when the pressure hits, and trust me, it will, you don't want someone next to you who disappears. You want someone who digs deep, who shows up, who takes responsibility. So if you've got people in your life right now who refuse to take ownership, who rewrite every story to make themselves look good, who can't say, I messed up, without following it with, but you, then you've got a decision to make. Because trust and responsibility go hand in hand. And if they keep dropping the ball and acting like you're the reason it fell, you're not dealing with a partner. You're babysitting an ego. And that's not your assignment.